Good evening and welcome back to the West Ham Network. This is Anton bringing to you the David Moyes press conference ahead of the game against Silkeborg tomorrow evening at home. Away, I should say, in Denmark. So as we normally do in these shows, roll the title. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you go across and check out all the content we put out today. Earlier on, we did a preview. Myself and my dad had a good old discussion about double teaming, you could say, double trouble in terms of Scamacca and Antonio potentially starting the game. We have to take into consideration we're playing on an artificial pitch, and that is going to be a big difference, which Moyes talks about in his press conference as well. Now, we do know for the Europa Conference League press conferences that he is always joined by a player as well. Today's player was Tilo Kehrer, of course, our centre-back, our right-footed centre-back, ball-playing, good player, stepping up to the mark. Tilo Kehrer joined David Moyes on the presser this afternoon. Now, if you are watching, leave your comments. We'll jump through your comments as well. But as we always do, it's time to get started on today's show, which is all about the presser. So I'm going to start first and foremost with Tilo Kehrer and what he said about West Ham. And it's really good stuff. You'll be excited to hear that. He says, I feel like it's been a kickstart directly into my West Ham career, and it has been the best way to integrate. It's very important because I almost had no games in pre-season. Getting into the games felt like a cold start for me, and getting that confidence is important. I've been involved straight away, and for me, it's felt good. I didn't have so many games in pre-season, so having my debut right away helped me. I feel like I'm getting there. I think as I have followed the Premier League before, I knew that I would have to adapt, and I think I am still doing that. It's kind of what I expected, and I enjoying that. I as we go through the press conference, especially with Tilo, you'll really start to understand the character of what he is. And Moyes, again, talks about him individually, what a quality player he is for West Ham. And he looks like he's going to build upon that moving forward. And he really holds and speaks really well and stands loud and proud. And you can see that captain vibe. Honestly, you really can when you look at a player like him. But next, he was asked about the boss. He said, what's your thoughts on David Moyes? He said, obviously, it's important to have the belief from the manager. I had no games in rhythm from pre-season, so it's been getting into that from a cold start, and I'm trying to give that confidence in me back. And he says, he goes on and he talks about how David Moyes is building his confidence, and he believes. I mean, I think there's actually a statement. I've got it here. Why West Ham? He was asked. So the club is getting bigger, and it's really interesting project. The team, the coaching staff, the ideas that are here, and the values that are shown. Those were the most important reasons for me. So when you hear that from a player, let's not forget this player, 25-time capped German international, the most capped German international under the current coach as well. He is a starter for the German national side. He keeps playing the way he's playing. He's going to be a starter in the World Cup. And we've really got an international quality central defender here, especially with the news that Aguerd is kind of working his way back to some form of fitness as well. So you really will have players challenging for that area, which was what we've been so desperately wanting to have for such a long time. He was asked about the West Ham status. He said, I think it's a name that gets bigger and bigger. You see the signings that came in the summer and the last season the club had. It's very positive. It's getting more known around Europe in people's eyes, and everything is on a good line. And I suppose that really falls back onto, West Ham transitioning into the club that we have, I suppose you could say, been promised for such a long time. The world of football is very different to the way it used to be years and years and years ago when West Ham were reasonably, I was going to say, dominant for a few seasons in Europe. But being consistently there and playing teams from all over is definitely good for the status of the club, and being able to draw in big quality players definitely helps that situation as well. So Kehrer then went on and spoke about Europe. He said many teams would be happy to play in Europe, and it's a privilege to teams as it is for us, and we want to go as far as possible. So winning the first game was important. And And we know that good results in the group lead to getting to the next round. And we want to continue with that tomorrow and then get out of the group. And I think that's something that we've been talking about. I spoke earlier on today with my dad about the importance of getting the job done as quickly as you possibly can. Really, at the end of the day, by the end of October, you want to try to put this competition or this stage of the competition to bed. And if you can, then you can fully concentrate on the league and progressing up the league, because then you can park the Conference League until the potentially March. Really, it could be up to March before then you are getting more back into competitive games in the conference. So then you can really put your full focus on the situation ahead, which is exactly what we all want to do. I'm going to jump into the comments, see who's kicking about. Cornet has a 99% chance of starting. He's no snowflake after all. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. James Bong, evening, chaps. I'm here all week. Hope you're well. Evening, Hammers. Good on to see you, Mikey. Hope you're well. Ludders is in the house. You're all talking to each other. That's really nice. Moyes is really good at signing quality defenders. Mikey said it's so nice to hear those words from a new signing. It really shows the vibe West Ham's radiating these days. You are absolutely bang on, mate. Now let's jump into team news. Team news, which is what everyone wants to hear. So the team news is Craig Dawson and Aaron Creswell have travelled. Ben Johnson hasn't travelled. We'll have a look at Craig and Aaron, check out what's best for them with the surface, excuse the spelling mistake, and everything. They have done a bit of training. Now, again, like people, if they don't know, we have an artificial surface that we're coming up against. And Moyes was then asked about that because that can change things for a game. He says, it's given me some thoughts. There are things we respect that it is an artificial pitch, and we have to come here and play a good game to win. It'll give the players an idea of how they see the ball rolling. The speed of it is something we have to work with and do the best that we can. And yeah, I think I'm trying to actually remember the last time we played on an artificial surface. I can't for the life of me think about it. And I probably should have done my due diligence on this to find out when we last played on an artificial pitch. But locally, where I live, one of the Premier League teams in Scotland, known as Kilmarnock, have a artificial 4th generation pitch. And they, once upon a time, had a couple of players that really couldn't play many of their home games if you had knee knocks, because the surface, as much as they try to emulate the grass, it can be solid, and that can have a detrimental effect to players who have potentially got dodgy knees. It's someone who's a bit elderly in the game in terms of the game age, and who has dodgy knees. It doesn't help that impact on that as well. So that's something that they have to be absolutely mindful for. Moyes then went on, and there's more team news to come, so don't worry. He went on and spoke about Kehrer. He said he's adapted quickly, but I think he's got so much more to do and so much more room to grow. And you can honestly, every time you hear Moyes talking about him, and he's said it several times, he's absolutely over the moon with the signing of Kehrer, because he says he's stepping up in the background, and you can see the kind of, he's not said this, but when he alludes to the fact that you've got captaincy ability, captaincy attributes that add and support that team in the background. He's a voice, and he's obviously a positive voice, and he's confident, and that's good. And you can manage the team in and around that. And you would expect that, playing in the leagues he's playing in, the best leagues in the world. He's now, I think he's now obviously Bundesliga, and now in the English Premier League as well, and PSG and Ligue 1, and then obviously with the German international side. So all plays into his hands. Now, the question that was asked, key point here, the question that was asked to David Moyes was, is Cornet a doubt? Now, if we remember, let's flick ourselves back to the FCSB game, where Cornet threw his whole body on the line to try and win that header against the goalkeeper and was taken out by the goalkeeper. Now, he went off as a precaution, and Moyes went on to say he was fine. He felt it more in his neck. Maxi has been fine. He's been training. So really what they're then ruling out is the fact that it was any form of concussion. So that's a positive thing. So it looks like he's been in training. We have seen the images of him in training, and it looks like he will be ready to rock and roll for this game. Now, the key element for this is players have had time to rest. Lots of players have had time to rest. We'll come on to another player in a second who was going to be a doubt if the Newcastle game had gone ahead, but he has had time to recover as well. So if Cornet had felt it in his neck, then it looks like he is back, ready to rock and roll, and he will be ready for this game against Silkeborg. Now, we have done our show where we speak about our starting 11, who we think we would like to start later on tonight, we'll be doing your starting 11. This is the starting 11 that you would like to pick as well. So there's not a huge amount of differences between the two teams, but I think Max Cornet is game ready. He's ready to rock and roll. I've been really impressed with what I've saw of him so far. Front foot player, gets stuck in, moves forward, progresses the style of play, gets involved defensively, absolutely dominates that left-hand side, but can give us an option as a second striker as well. So really positive vibes coming from Max Cornet. And the situation there. Now, another player that was injured, who I was alluding to earlier on, was Tommy Souček, who, if the game against Newcastle had gone ahead, he would have missed the game. Now, Moyes spoke about Souček. He said, Thomas is okay. He had a kick in the foot and hadn't trained for most of the week and would have been a doubt for Newcastle if that had gone ahead, but he has been training since and is okay. So that's positive news, but what does that mean for the starting 11, especially after Flynn Downs having such a really important quality game that he played for West Ham in the FCSB game? So therefore, for me, it would be ridiculous to drop Flynn Downs to allow Souček to come in. However, I could see Souček getting a bit of game time to get familiar again with playing, and I think that's vital going into the games we've got coming ahead. But it's really important that Flynn Downs starts this game, gets his second competitive game under his belt in Europe, and can try his best to give us the best performance he can absolutely do. So really good news that Souček is back, gives us squad depth, and gives the squad a chance to challenge for anything that's kicking about there as well. Moyes was then asked about his players and talking about settling in. He said they have families to see or meet. It can take you a bit of time to get your bills paid, rent, or whatever it is. Fortunately, we've got a really good player care team here, and we do know that. We have heard that for many a year, that the player care team, they are very articulate about what they do with the players, where they stay, how they are looked after, how they're integrated into, if they're coming from abroad, coming from other nationalities, coming to Britain, coming to London, how do you settle in here? And, that's why they've got kind of good connections to the Canary Wharf situation. And, I've been around Canary Wharf and bumped into many a West Ham player once upon a time down there. So they are very good care team. So, yeah, absolutely. We've got 8 new players that have come in and have to get settled in. And it's really important, imperative that they get familiar with each other. And I think they are. I'm starting to see glimpses of things that make me feel positive about what West Ham can offer. So, and what we could potentially offer this season as well. Another thing, though, that people have been talking about is squad rotation, and that was a question that was prompted to David Moyes today. He said sometimes you can do that and get it wrong. We needed to up the ante and go again. We're going to do it a lot more now. The chance to play 5 subs, 12 on the bench. Certainly these games, we'd like to give players opportunities to play. So we have seen a transition in David Moyes in terms of making earlier substitutions. He has been doing that a lot earlier. And their impact subs as well. So it's good to think now with 12 players on the bench and you can make 5 substitutions that he is very open to doing that should that option or opportunity arise. So yeah, it's good to see that. We need the squad rotation. It's vital for West Ham to progress up the ranks, and it gives the right players the right rest at the right time when we need it, when we've never really had that squad strength and depth with quality, might I add, as well. David Moyes then was asked about the Europa League conference. What's his thoughts? How was the game against FCSB? He said, we didn't enjoy how we were in the first half at all. We picked up, but we've watched it back and we missed a lot of chances in the first half, which would have made a difference. We did actually play some good stuff before half-time, but missed chances. We changed it up in the second half, and what we've got now is a stronger group who can do that. If you look through all of the results last week, we were one of the only teams that won 3-1. It was incredibly tight. All the games for us last season had real level of difficulty, and I think, I completely commend what he's saying there. He stamps respect onto the question and stamps respect onto the competition, stamps respect onto the opposition. He never looks at an opposition and goes, you know what, we should be smashing this, doing that, doing this, doing that. So I like his mindset for this team. So it's ridiculous when you hear rumours or fans turning around. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but get rid of I'm not there. I'm by far nowhere near saying get rid of David Moyes. Absolutely not. But positive vibes kicking around the squad. We're in Europe. Let's go and get a convincing win against Silkeborg, and that will really be a positive step moving forward. Now, that was an end of the presser. as it is. That's exactly what it is. And it was always good to get your inside knowledge onto the game ahead. Now, other things that have come out today since we've been doing a few of the shows, privy to a conversation earlier on about the Zagadou situation. Now, we are led to believe, no interest in being an ITK, that his agent is sparking up a lot of interest in him and potentially is throwing out, stories of 4-year contracts and etc. Now, when it comes to Zagadou and when we talk about him, I try my best to look and see where will they fit in. I think there is a gamble to be made there if a team does go for him. But we're led to believe that maybe West Ham aren't as interested as what is being led to believe. So, again, like we've always said, be mindful of the information that you get. Be mindful of the information that you report. We just report from sources that say, today, for example, German sources all over the shop are saying that he's very close to signing for an English club. But we don't know how true that sort of stuff is. But we have heard from another agent saying that his agent is throwing his name about and trying to generate a lot of interest in him, which could add up, but you have to wait and see. For anyone that's joining the Hazardry, good to see you. It's a short and sweet show, as we like to do. Mandy G, oi, good to see you. James Bong, thank you for joining me. Howard Ailes, thank you very much for joining me as well. Now, if you haven't already, go back out, check the West Ham Daily from earlier on. We discuss Scamacca and Antonio, and we talk a little bit about the preview in Silkeborg and what they can offer, etc. On the Hammers headlines, we talk about, well, go and check it out. Guess who's back? Back again. Someone's back. Tell a friend. So go and check that out as well. Obviously, we're doing this show just now, 9 o'clock tonight. You will see your starting 11 predictions, so make sure you join us for that. Yesterday evening, Peter Butler was on the channel, ex-West Ham Pro. You've got to go check it out with Russ. Great content as usual. We've got more people lined up for you, so you've got to bear with us. We're going to bring you as much as we possibly can. Myself and Russ have got a few meetings this evening as well about discussing what we're going to be doing moving forward. So hopefully we can announce a few really cool, interesting things for you over the next week or two. You will honestly really enjoy it, and it'll be your kind of one-stop shop, I suppose you could say, for your West Ham content. I know, and I'm not meaning that in a negative. I know there's so much other stuff out there, and enjoy that as well, and it's good. Of course, that's what you want to do. Anyway, if you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, give me your feedback. Always appreciate it. And as we always like to do, we like to thank all our channel members for joining us. Take it easy, and see you later on tonight. Come on, you Irons.
It's like a family tree, part of you and part of me. And if we should tell